Hello, Chemistry 1B students, and welcome back to chemistry. This is Mrs. Krumschreider, and I wanted to go over the syllabus with you. There are a few changes to the syllabus, so I'm mostly going to highlight those, but kind of go over this in general. So again, you guys remember that my email address is pretty important. It's going to be the best way to contact me um, when we are not um, not in session. So like when we're fully virtual. And also, even if we weren't, um, it is probably the easiest and best way to get in contact with me. Again, chemistry is a college prep class. I do expect you to be self-motivated and interested in learning. Okay. Requirements that you need to have at home, um, and when we're in class, kind of have with you in class. Remember, we talked about your textbook and that sort of being optional about bringing it to school when you're not using your locker, to kind of, I know that your um, backpacks are pretty full, but you will need a calculator this trimester. There's a lot of math in Chem 1B, so you need a calculator. I really would encourage you to not use your cell phone, but to actually use an actual calculator. You might want some paper to do your work. For the math, I'm going to require you to show your work. So, and it's nearly impossible to type up math problems on the computer. So, I really would encourage you to have some paper. It's going to be easier for you to write your assignments on a piece of paper. Now, you don't have to you could use the top part of your piece of paper, and then if you only use a couple lines of it, you could do the next homework assignment right underneath it and just kind of take pictures of it that way and kind of conserve paper a little bit. That would certainly be fine. Um, I would encourage you to do your homework in pencil just because it's a lot easier if you make a mistake that way. I would still encourage you to think about having a binder, but again, you probably want to just keep that at home. And obviously, you need a Chromebook or a device of some sort. So, attendance and makeup work, again, chemistry is going to continue to build upon itself. So, most all of what you learned in Chemistry 1A, we're still going to use as we move into Chemistry 1B. So it is important that you understand that material. You want to try to be present. You need to watch the videos when they're assigned in Google Classroom, right? Mostly because that's where your notes are, and we still will have note quizzes and such from time to time. So you do need to make sure you're taking your notes. Um, Chemistry does build upon itself when you're absent, okay? And so there's a couple kinds of absences, right? Um, Generally, absences are kind of minor at this point because there's still a recording for you to watch if you're absent. But that includes days that you're absent due to COVID. So if for some reason, for example, how we're starting the trimester where we're going to be virtual until after Christmas break, right? Um, and such, technically those are absences. So no matter what, okay, whether we're all virtual or you're coming face to face, if you're not in class, know that your work is still due according to the due dates that are posted in Google Classroom. And those due dates are the same whether you're face to face or virtual. Okay. Um, so tests and quizzes, right? Again, all tests and quizzes are going to be through Google Forms, and I really do expect you to take your test or your quiz on the day that it is assigned. So communication with the teacher is going to be fairly important, especially as we're starting the trimester off virtually. So this is really important here because I know that when we're virtual, there's sort of a tendency of, boy, I get to sleep in and start my day at noon. Okay. Keep in mind that all communication with me is expected to occur during normal school hours on school days, which is from 7:45 a.m. till 3:15 p.m. Monday through Friday. So it's fine if you want to sleep until noon and get started then, but keep in mind that when it gets to 3 or 3:15, I'm done for the day and I've already put in a full day's work. So if you're emailing me with questions or things of that nature after school hours end, realize that you may not get a response from me that same day. Okay. I do prefer email for communication. It's just the easiest way, okay? Um, Make sure if you're emailing me, you're using your school email address, which really hasn't been a problem. If your parents have a question, they should email me with an email address that they check regularly, okay? So communication, so this again, now that we're going to be fully virtual for at least a period of time, right? Communication is going to be extra important because that's how attendance is taken care of, okay? So when you see a W in your attendance in Skyward, that's a bad thing. That means that you didn't communicate, okay? So communication has to be two-way. It has to be a back and forth. Okay, it has to be with students. So having your parents email me about something does not count as communication. It's for me, it's a communication with your parents, but it doesn't count as like attendance communication. Okay, and you should be communicating at least twice per week, and um, that is defined as starting on Wednesday and like ending the Tuesday night that follows. Okay, so it's kind of Wednesday to Wednesday. But honestly, that doesn't matter that much, right? If you're communicating twice a week during a normal week, Monday to Wednesday, Friday, and you do that every single week, you'll always meet that Wednesday to Wednesday communication. Okay. The communication is supposed to be academic in nature and it should be initiated by you, the student. Um, However, and this is the kind of important one, submitting assignments and taking assessments does count. Okay. So when you turn in a homework assignment, when you take an assessment, a quiz, a test, okay, final exam, those count as attendance. And what you should see then for your attendance record in Skyward is you should see a 2. A 2 is our way of documenting that we had two-way communication with you. Okay. If you see a V, that means that you were present in a Google Meet probably and had some sort of virtual face-to-face meeting. For me, I don't do those very often because I didn't find that people participated in them. So for me, when you turn in assignments, you're going to see a 2. If you took the assessment on the day it was assigned, you're going to see a 2. Okay? Now, that doesn't mean that you still shouldn't communicate with me if you have concerns or questions, right? If I make a mistake on the video, right? Like that's happened a few times where it's cut out and I didn't realize it right away, and so there's parts that's missing. Someone needs to tell me that, okay? Now I know we all expect Margot to do that, but I haven't even looked at my class list to see if Margot is in this section of Chem 1B. So if you notice a mistake, something that I've done wrong, please, right? I'm human just like you. I make mistakes. Let me know so I can address it, so I can fix it and make sure everybody knows what's going on. So when you are face to face, okay, the communication's fulfilled by the fact that you're physically present in class. However, again, for example, until Christmas break, we're going to be 100% virtual, which means every single student in every single class has to be communicating. Okay. Now, again, this should be true right here about the submitting assignments. That should be true not just in my class, but in all classes. Okay. So if you're turning in assignments, that's great. If though, like, we have a week where there's not any assignments, then I need to hear from you somehow, okay? Um, so that I can give you credit for having been present. So that's the communication. Assignments, okay? So with the assignments, okay, labs and homework, and I don't know what's going to happen with labs, you guys, with being virtual. So we'll see what happens, okay? But I remember just like last trimester, everything's turned in through Google Classroom. You need to have internet access at home and a device capable of supporting Google Classroom. Again, with math, I'm really going to encourage you to do photos or the Adobe scans of the handwritten assignments, okay? That Adobe Scan app is sweet. The pictures and the images I get from that are wonderful. If you haven't been using that, I'd encourage you to think about trying it and seeing if it's easier and works a little bit better, okay? So for homework, where there's math involved, I really want you to handwrite it out because I want you to show me all your work, okay? And take a picture of it or scan it with the Adobe app. Okay, now just like last trimester, you are responsible for using a key or a homework check video provided by me to check the accuracy of your homework assignments. Again, you guys, with all the videos I have to make and such, it's just I don't physically have the time to check your homework for you. I do glance at it when I'm giving you credit for it, and if I see obviously mistakes on it, I typically am going to say something about check the homework key. Okay? With there being more math this trimester, you're probably going to see not just the pictures of the teacher's addition answers, but you're more likely to see homework check videos. Those will still be underneath the homework answer keys, okay, for you, for those videos. And remember, those homework answer keys become available at 7 p.m. the day the assignment is assigned. Due date, I am changing the due dates a little bit, and this has to do with that whole attendance thing, okay? I want homework turned in by 2:30 instead of giving you till 3:15. My work day ends at 3:15. And as crazy as everything is, some days I actually at 3:15 want to be done, okay? So I want to be able to do your attendance. Best way that I mentioned for doing attendance when we're virtual is, did you turn in your assignment? So by having you have to have your homework in by 2:30, that gives me plenty of time to get attendance entered into Skyward. So that means that if you look at your attendance at 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock, at least for my class, it should be accurate for that day. If you turned something in, the homework assignment in that day, it should be reflected in your attendance, okay? So I'm going to ask you to make sure your assignments are turned in by 2:30 p.m. on the day they're due. Now, it's going to work exactly the same way it did last trimester, right? If I assign something today, it will be due tomorrow at 2:30. So you always have more than 24 hours to complete your work. If we do a lab, it'll work exactly the same way where you'll have one full week to complete your assignment. But again, now the change will be instead of it being due at 3:15, it's going to be due by 2:30 to allow me to get time to get that attendance entered and give you credit for having been present that day. Assessments, okay, these are still going to be done through Google Classroom using Google Forms, okay? Remember, it's going to continue with the fact that they're all open book, open note. That being said, remember on note quizzes and such, I'm really checking to see if you're taking good notes. So I'm really checking to see, do you have word for word definitions and such from your notes? Okay, I'm not looking for you to go on the internet and find it. I'm not looking for you to have taken your own notes from the textbook and not have what I have. Okay, so keep that in mind with note quizzes. It is important that you're taking notes like I provide for you in the videos. Okay, assessments, so tests and quizzes. Remember, those are even my assignments and assessments, right? They're going to pop up at 8 a.m. I typically schedule everything, right? I'm usually a couple weeks ahead, okay? So those are going to become available at 8 a.m. for you, okay? With tests and quizzes and the final exam, when they become available at 8 a.m., you'll have until just before midnight on that day to complete them. Now, there is no way for me to like close them down. So if for some reason you don't take them on that day, I have not been penalizing anybody. And as long as it's just like a student here or there occasionally doing it, I won't penalize students for not taking it on the day it's assigned if something kind of crazy happens in your life and you're not able to get to it, okay? But the goal is always to take your assessment the day it's assigned. Expectations and rules, right? These mostly apply when we're in class, but being prepared. So make sure when you sit down to take your notes, right? Outlines. I apologize. Normally I would give you a copy of the outlines. I would encourage you when you're trying to, if you're going to print outlines, so if you have access to a printer at home, and maybe that'd be a nice thing to ask for Christmas or to pay attention to in the month of November and Cyber Monday to see if you can find a cheap printer that you could connect a computer to or your Chromebook to for printing purposes, okay? Um, you know, I would encourage you to print from the PDF, okay? I provide the PDF of the outlines because usually no one has any problems printing from the PDF. Again, being on time is more of a thing when we're in class, and I think you know what the expectations for that are. Again, please just continue to be safe. I know we're not in school right now, but when we're back in school, about wearing our face masks. And you need to be safe even right now when you're not in school, right, with people that aren't members of your family. So just be safe. Okay. Remember the three-ring binder that was kind of waived right now because with you not having a locker, I realize it's a lot to have in your backpack, and so you don't have to have one. I will tell you that most of my students who go on and take a college chemistry class, they really like having their outlines and their materials from chemistry in high school. So you might want to think about getting a binder started and putting like your trimester A stuff in it and keeping it until you see whether or not you're going to have to take a college chemistry class. If you're planning to do anything with biology, if you're thinking about anything in a medical career, you're going to have to take probably at least 2 years of college level chemistry. You might find your chemistry materials from high school to be helpful for that. So again, I would encourage you to contemplate, you know, finding a spot to put those, whether that's a binder or somewhere else. Grading again isn't changing at all. Remember that I don't have a way in Google Classroom to stop accepting late work, so I'll take it, but I'm going to give you half credit for it, okay, if it's not turned in by the due date and the due time. Um, Here's your grade breakdown. Again, this isn't any different than it was last trimester, okay? So all of that continues to be the same. So, that being said, I'm looking forward to Chemistry 1B with all of you. And please keep in mind that if ever you have questions or concerns, contact me via email. Certainly, always it's an option if we need to set up a Google Meet or to have a phone conversation and talk you through something on the phone, right? My goal is I want you to be successful. I want you to learn chemistry. And so if you're having some questions or concerns or challenges, okay, you need to let me know and you need to get a hold of me. So have a great day. I will talk to you tomorrow.